This is the success that nobody warns you about. I thought that burnout would really stop once I kind of made it. But that was a lie. You spend your 20s trying to prove something, right? Your 30s, you're chasing scale. And then one day you're in your 40s. And in my case, I'm 46. You realize something. I've got the money. I've got the freedom. So why do I feel hollow? This is the success that nobody warns you about. It's not the burnout that comes from the grind. It's the burnout that comes after the grind. It's the kind where you kind of look at your calendar and you see white space, but you still feel trapped. It's the kind where people envy your life, but you envy their aliveness. Burnout doesn't just come from effort. It comes from misalignment. So you can be rich, healthy, respected, and still feel like a shell if the game that you're playing no longer really makes sense to you. And that's exactly what happened to me. I didn't crash. I didn't explode. I just slowly faded out of the business that I built. The dopamine was gone. The urgency was gone. And underneath all of it, I was tired. Not physically, but existentially. And this is what I call the quiet crisis. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And most successful founders, they ignore it until something breaks. And this series that I have, The Quiet Founder, it exists specifically to speak with people who have experienced that. No hype, no hacks, clarity, structure, and a path forward. So if you're in your 40s or even your 30s and you're really starting to feel this, don't bury it, because the next version of your life, it's not going to come from pushing harder. It will come from listening better. So let's unpack all of this, all right? Let's talk about the hidden cost of chasing the next milestone and why even 7 figures can start to feel like a trap. All right, this is why more isn't working for you anymore. You don't really get here by accident. To be 46 years old, burned out, and rich, it means you did something right. You built, you pushed, you figured out things that most people never will. However, eventually, even the biggest wins, they start to blur. Another 100,000? Cool. Another deal closed? Okay, sure. Another opportunity? I guess. And it's not that you're ungrateful. You remember when 10K felt impossible, but now the numbers just don't hit the same. The wins don't feel like they used to. You wonder if you're broken or just done. And here's something that no one is going to say out loud. More only works when it still means something. And when it doesn't, you start chasing growth because you don't really know what else to do. You just keep building because it's your default setting. So you stay in momentum because slowing down feels like death. And that's where the trap starts. You are no longer building for freedom. You're building because stopping feels scarier than stress. And here's the ironic thing. The bigger your life gets, the less space you actually feel inside it. So the calendar might be clear, but the mind is loud. The money is flowing, but the meaning is fading. You are caught between 2 extremes. The fear of throwing away what you've actually built and the fear of wasting your life, staying inside it. So what happens? You float. Not broken, not lost. You're just numb. But this is the shift. What you need is not more growth. What you need is a new lens for growth. A lens where the goal isn't scale for scale's sake, but building something that makes you feel alive again. So in the next section, I'm going to show you the single question that snapped me out of autopilot and how it really reshaped everything that I thought I wanted. So let's get into it. This is the question that really changed everything for me. It wasn't a coach, it wasn't a book, it wasn't some big breakdown. It was a single question that I asked myself on a walk by myself, one evening after a perfect, successful day, right? If no one ever saw what I built, would I still want to build it? And that's what stopped me in my tracks. That one hit me right in the gut, because the honest answer was no. I realized just how much of my ambition had become performance-based. Not in a fake way, but in a very reflexive way. I wasn't chasing outcomes because I needed them. I was chasing them because I didn't know who I was without the chase. So building became my identity. And behind every single goal was an invisible audience that I was trying to impress, even if I couldn't name them. Clients, competitors, old friends, my dad. I was performing for ghosts. That's the part that no one really warns you about, especially when you're successful. The machine, it doesn't just stop because you've won. It keeps humming, and it's going to keep running your life until you decide to take back the control. That question changed everything. Gave me a filter. Does this offer really light me up or just stroke my ego? Do I want this outcome, or do I just want the validation that comes along with it? Would I build this in private with no applause, no followers, no press? Because that's the business that lasts. And that's the work that heals. That's the life you can actually enjoy. Now, I'm going to walk you through exactly how I started over. Not by burning everything to the ground, but by quietly realigning the way that I build. It wasn't flashy, but it really changed my days. So here we go. The rebuild, it begins quietly. This is a mistake that a lot of founders make, especially when they hit this wall. Okay? They think that the answer is reinvention. Burn it all down, sell the business, move to Portugal, start a podcast about, psychedelics and purpose. But for most of us, that's just more chaos in disguise. We don't need a revolution. What we need is a reset, one that's aligned with who we've become, not who we were when we first built the thing. So for me, the rebuild didn't start with some giant pivot. It started with a quiet filter. Does this move me closer to a business that feels like freedom? Not growth, not prestige, not even excitement, but freedom. That word became my compass. Freedom of time, freedom of energy, freedom to disappear for a day and not really be missed. Freedom to create without pressure. Freedom to say no without guilt. I started trimming offers that really drained me, even if they made money. I restructured calls. I let go of obligations that I had outgrown. And most of all, I gave myself permission to lower the noise. And very slowly, I began to feel it. The tension started to lift. My calendar reflected my priorities again. I wasn't necessarily chasing dopamine. I was following peace. And here's the surprising part. The business didn't suffer. It got sharper. The right clients stayed. The wrong ones, they self-selected themselves out. I stopped being the brand and I started being the man again. Felt good. If you're in this phase where everything on the outside already works, but nothing inside feels settled, the rebuild doesn't have to be loud. It just needs to be honest. So, now it's time to break down exactly how I designed a calm income system, one that pays well, runs quietly, and it gives me room to breathe. This is exactly how I designed a calm $25K a month system. The old me wanted leverage. The new me wanted stability and psychological safety. So that became my new metric for success. Does this system pay me? And does it protect me? No more chasing launches. No more needing to be on every single day. No more business models that really demanded a piece of me just to keep running. I didn't need to build an empire. I needed to build a moat. And this is exactly how it got done. First, recurring revenue first. I stopped trying to chase spikes. Instead, I focused on building a membership, something that paid me monthly. It's not sexy, but every time I added a new subscriber, my base income got a little bit stronger. So I created a $249 a month community. I taught what I knew. $250 a month CRM add-on for those who needed tools. A small set of $1,000 to $4,000 services that didn't require me to be constantly selling. And over time, these compounded, and they still are. 2, quiet client acquisition. I ditched the outbound spam. Instead, I used LinkedIn content plus warm DMs plus high trust calls. No funnels, no tricks, just showing up daily, being useful, and letting people opt in when they were ready. Like this video. The real trick, consistency without emotional volatility. Third, operational sanity. I built systems that ran without me. Automation with tools like Go High Level, SOPs for onboarding and delivery, a clear calendar that ends at 5 p.m. Because freedom without structure is chaos, ladies and gentlemen, and burnout doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from not knowing what's enough. This system makes me $25K a month. More importantly, it gives me my life back. It doesn't require me to scale fast. It doesn't depend on hype. It's just calm, steady, and mine. So, now I'm going to share the deeper emotional payoff. Okay, this is what it really feels like to be 46, still building, but no longer at war with myself. This is all about redefining peace at 46. I used to think peace meant giving up. I used to think that it was something people settled for when they couldn't win anymore. But now I see it as the highest form of power. Because when you've played the game and you still choose to slow down, you're not escaping. You're evolving. And at 46, peace looks different to me than it did at 26. It's not retirement. It's not mediocrity. It's this deep, stable knowing that I don't need to prove anything anymore. And that's huge. This is what peace feels like today. Waking up without dread. Working from intention and not impulse. Ending the day with energy left over. Creating because I want to, not because I'm trying to keep up. Saying no without apology, without explanation. I'm not chasing deals that don't align anymore. I'm not trying to outpost anyone on social. I'm not defining success by screenshots or by viral clips. And the paradox? The more I've actually centered peace, the more power I have found. My content is sharper now because it's coming from clarity. My calls are cleaner because there's no pressure to close. My decisions are better because they are not fear-based. Peace, it's not passive. It's not doing nothing. It's doing the right things at the right pace for the right reasons. And when I look at my life now, I see space, not just in my calendar, but in my body, in my mind, in my relationships, in my sense of self. And that space, that's the real win. So, now it's time to break down exactly how to start creating this space for yourself. Even if your life feels chaotic or noisy or like it's running away from you, you do not have to move to Bali. You just need to build with different assumptions. Ready? This is the first move towards calm, okay? This is the good news. You do not have to overhaul your entire life just to feel calm. You just need to make a few different moves, and repeatedly. The shift doesn't really start with a sabbatical. It starts with deciding that you are done being at war with your business and yourself. This is the first 3 moves that I would make, okay, that change everything. This is what I did. 1, you set a calm revenue floor. A lot of people don't really know what enough looks like. So what do? They just keep chasing more offers, more deals, more scale. But instead, I asked myself, what is the minimum monthly revenue that gives me stability and space and safety? So for me, it was about 20 to 25K a month. That really covered all my needs. It gave me margin, and it really allowed for freedom. So without forcing me to sprint. Once I had that number in mind, I could opt out of all the unnecessary noise. Second, design for energy and not your ego. I used to design a lot of my offers around what looked impressive. Big retainers, high ticket, complex packages. But I started asking myself, what can I deliver consistently without stress that still creates massive value for people? That question killed about 80% of my stress, and it doubled my delivery quality. Third, calendar clarity equals nervous system safety. This one was huge. I stopped accepting random calls. I set on hours and off hours. I created white space, and I protected it like revenue. Because if you don't control your calendar is eventually going to control your mood. And no amount of money is worth feeling trapped inside your own day. So, these 3 moves, they gave me traction. And more importantly, they gave me hope. Because once you taste calm, you stop tolerating chaos. You realize that you're not actually addicted to building. You're addicted to feeling like you matter. And if you can feel like that without the burnout, you're in great shape. So let's wrap this up. This is what I believe is the real win, okay? And this is how you can build towards it without blowing up what you've already earned. Here we go. Here's what real success feels like now. Success used to feel like adrenaline. Now it feels like an exhale. I used to measure wins by exactly what I could show. Screenshots, followers, revenue milestones, logos on my client list. But now I measure success by what I can feel. Waking up without the anxiety, going to bed without regret, creating without needing applause, spending time with my family, and being present. Knowing that my business exists to serve my life, not the other way around. That is success now. And it really took me around 20 years to kind of realize this. The real win, it's not freedom from work. It's freedom inside the work. To wake up, to build something meaningful, and still feel like a human at the end of the day. To earn well, not just financially, but emotionally. To stop playing a game where the scoreboard keeps moving. To build something that actually feels like yours. That's what I have now. And I'm not going to lie to you, it is quiet. There aren't all these viral posts announcing it. There aren't masterminds for it. You don't get trophies for peace. But I've never really felt more in control. I don't need to scale recklessly. I don't need to impress people that I don't respect. I don't need to build for anyone but me and the people that I choose to serve. That is the power of quiet success. So, if you're watching this and you're somewhere between burned out and bored, somewhere between rich and restless, here's something you've got to know. You're definitely not alone, and you're certainly not broken, and you're also not done. You're just ready for the next version of success and yourself. The kind that doesn't cost you your peace. The kind that grows slower, but it stays longer. The kind that doesn't need to be seen to be real. I'm going to keep showing up here, building in public, quietly, And if this speaks to you, I hope you'll stay close, because we are not done. We are just getting started. Speaking of getting started, if you want to check out my newsletter, I suggest you go to natberman.com. It's called the Calm Income Playbook. And if you want to join my community, feel free to check out joinbrandbuild.com. And obviously, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. I'll see you guys in the next video.